Star Wars Jedi Survivor introduces players to a more mature Cal Kestis, and a recent interview with its game director highlights exactly what this means for the game's combat and traveling mechanics. The first game firmly establishes the message that the Jedi Order has fallen, and that any attempt to bring it back through traditional means during the dark times of the Empire would be met with failure. To that end, the Cal Kestis players meet in Jedi Survivor has been shaped into an unconventional warrior. The lightsaber combat stances of Star Wars Jedi Survivor greatly expand on the foundation established with the first game, as Cal Kestis seemingly has 5 different styles to choose from in the sequel. The standard single saber, dual sabers, the saber staff, a crossguard lightsaber, and a lightsaber and blaster combo that makes Cal look more like the Star Wars equivalent of a swashbuckler than a former Padawan. As Jedi Survivor's release date looms in the coming months, fans are getting a clear picture of the features and gameplay that await them in the sequel game. This time around, game director Stig Asmussen sat down with Game Informer to discuss the details of how Jedi Survivor's gameplay evolved from Fallen Order. Asmussen claims that the new enemies in Jedi Survivor will each have particular strengths and weaknesses when it comes to the 5 different saber styles that Cal can employ. Gamers who opt to play on higher difficulty levels may find it extremely advantageous to switch between the stances and figure out the best way to break through the enemy's defenses. When asked about the new combat styles, Asmussen points out that while making use of an uncivilized weapon such as a blaster would be frowned upon during the halcyon days of the Old Republic, Cal has to do whatever it takes to survive the darkest years of the Empire. Speaking of the Old Republic, Star Wars Jedi Survivor lets Cal construct a crossguard lightsaber, evoking the weapons of ancient Jedi, as well as allowing players to channel their inner Kylo Ren. Stig Asmussen believes that players will have plenty of fun with that particular saber stance, as the crossguard lightsaber's confident approach delivers weighty, beefy swings at the expense of longer timing windows. While Star Wars fans can expect to see the return of Cere Juanda and BD-1, the impression seems to be that Jedi Survivor is leaving the Mantis crew behind, and one of the new characters that joins Cal on his adventures is Bode Kuna. Asmussen describes their relationship as brotherly, with Bode's personality being a good complement to Kestis. In regard to how these lightsaber stances are used, certain ones are more beneficial against certain enemies. In Asmussen's own words, it's advantageous to use certain types of stances against certain types of enemies, and it's up to the player to figure that out. 2 of the battle stances are presumably the single-blade lightsaber and dual-bladed lightsaber, but Asmussen confirms and discusses 3 of these lightsaber stances in Star Wars Jedi Survivor: the dual-blade option, 2 single-blade lightsabers, the crossguard lightsaber, a la Kylo Ren, and the saber plus blaster combo. The first is seemingly a high dexterity stance that sees Kylo flipping and spinning his 2 blades separately. Meanwhile, the crossguard lightsaber stance is described as more confident, weighty, and beefy, with timing windows being longer with the blade, so players have to measure out its use. The exact gameplay of the blaster and saber combo isn't discussed, outside the obvious addition of a new ranged element, but according to Asmussen, it's reflective of Cal's current place in the Star Wars Jedi Survivor story. He's an unconventional Jedi, and he has to do unconventional things. So, something that would be frowned upon during the height of the Jedi Order? Cal's finding he's going to do whatever it takes, says Asmussen. The crossguard may or may not be a practical or realistic attachment, especially considering the fact that a lightsaber blade would cut through the hilt that the crossguard rests on instantly. That said, Star Wars Jedi Survivor could see the crossguard emulate Kylo Ren's ungraceful flurries. It has been revealed that this stance has longer attack windows and is more weighted, which could suggest that it is a heavy weapon option with strokes that lug the blade around. If so, this could also mean that it deals more damage as a high-risk high-reward for equipping it, and knowing that parries or deflections could be more difficult to land. Cal could use the crossguard lightsaber to lunge heavily at enemies and swing weighted overhead attacks that may be interrupted by enemy attacks, which would leave players open if enemies are particularly fast or numerous. Having the crossguard attachment implementing slower, hefty attacks could be a great way to balance high damage with high vulnerability. It will be interesting to see precisely how the crossguard lightsaber affects combat in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, as well as all the new combat stances the sequel will introduce. Force powers are a staple of being a Jedi or a Sith. The powers that lurk within the Force are still a great mystery, and many video games and new Star Wars content seek to further flesh out what the Force is capable of and how it can be fun for gamers to utilize. When it came to the newest Star Wars property, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, there seems to be an abundance of new ways to connect to the Force and make the enemies of the Jedi see the powers of the light side. Cal Kestis is strong in the Force, and Star Wars Jedi Survivor proves just that with a new trailer. A seemingly overpowered Force move in the Star Wars Jedi Survivor reveals trailer shows Cal Kestis freezing time. This Force Stasis ability has been seen before, in The Force Awakens. Kylo Ren froze a blaster bolt and Poe Dameron. This move was also seen in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, but not to the extent of this. This new version of Force Stasis further shows how Cal Kestis has connected to the Force and is only growing in power as the years progress. This new version provides the world with a blue filter as if Cal is concentrating the energy around him to freeze in a chill. All enemies froze, including blaster fire just fired. One moment of the Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer shows Cal at a distance too far to his next climbing section. To counter this distance, Cal performs a Force Dash. This move sees Cal lunge forward in midair, dashing toward his target as if gravity is just an obstacle and not something based on reality. This is a pretty cool move for Cal Kestis and further opens the possibility for exploration in the galaxy far, far away, as Cal will inevitably use this new Force power to traverse the many planets and locations that he will be exploring, since adventure and parkour were big aspects of Fallen Order. The Force continues to be a great ally for Cal Kestis, and the most famed and basic Force power receives an upgrade. Cal Kestis may have been able to use Force Push with one hand, but with 5 years since his connection returned with the Force, it's no surprise that he can now use 2 hands to create an even more powerful Force Push. This attack sees Cal stop multiple enemies, including a heavy droid that sprints toward him. The ability to use both hands may not show that Cal is the strongest Jedi, but it certainly shows that he is getting better at his abilities and is becoming someone the Empire should fear. Is there anything scarier than being thrown and suspended in the air whilst someone waves a lightsaber around below? The answer is obviously no, and this new Force Gravity ability does just that. The trailer shows Cal pushing his hands up and suspending stormtroopers helplessly in the air. From here, stormtroopers are stuck, unable to use weapons or even touch the ground. It's the perfect move to allow players to attack them with their lightsaber and proves the inevitability of great combos of Force powers and lightsaber attacks in Survivor. It seems more like a Sith move than a Jedi move, but this Force Gunner ability sees Cal Kestis pull a stormtrooper towards him and use the poor trooper as a weapon. The stormtrooper helplessly squirms against Cal's Force ability in Jedi Survivor as Cal makes the stormtrooper unleash a fury of blaster bolts toward their allies. It's not as if the Empire deserves it, but still, it's a pretty dark ability. It doesn't mean that it is not awesome, as Cal Kestis is one of the last remaining Jedi since Order 66, and he will have to do anything to ensure his survival in the way of the Force. It's sure to be a fun ability, gunning down stormtroopers with their forces. The Force is what binds and surrounds all living things. As such, animals and creatures can bond with those that are Force-sensitive. Cal Kestis uses this Force connection to bond with creatures and animals throughout, unlocking a new system of traversing. Cal rides a strange horse-like creature and a flying creature. It further shows how Cal's understanding of the Force continues to grow, and as such, his abilities grow. Yoda would be proud to see Cal's calmness and stillness with the creatures that exist around the galaxy far, far away. Cal's Force connection with other creatures may be an interesting dynamic throughout Jedi Survivor. There are plenty of questions left regarding the story of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, like where is Merrin, its gameplay on top of that, its new characters, and more. Respawn will no doubt save some secrets for launch, but it's an exciting time for fans nonetheless. Sony Santa Monica confirms that God of War Ragnarok is receiving a New Game Plus mode. New Game Plus has long been tradition for the God of War franchise, but the 2018 God of War game launched without the feature. Sometime after launch, Sony Santa Monica released a free update for the 2018 God of War game to add New Game Plus. Considering this, many God of War fans assumed that Ragnarok would get a New Game Plus mode at some point as well, though they did not have official confirmation until now. Sony Santa Monica Studio has confirmed that God of War Ragnarok will get New Game Plus in spring 2023. Unfortunately, more details on what God of War Ragnarok New Game Plus will entail are unavailable. At minimum, one would imagine that it will allow gamers to go back through on the same difficulty with their gear and upgrades intact, but it would be nice if it allowed players to crank up the difficulty as well. More information on the God of War Ragnarok New Game Plus mode will come next year, but many fans are likely happy just knowing that the mode is on the way for sure. Gran Turismo recently celebrated its 25th anniversary, and to commemorate the occasion, Polyphony Digital released a message detailing the franchise's growth over the years. The original Gran Turismo was released in 1997 for the PlayStation 1, and it quickly became a smash hit. The game was praised for its realistic graphics and physics, and its large selection of cars. Gran Turismo was also one of the first racing games to feature licensed tracks from real-world locations. Gran Turismo has also been credited with popularizing the use of simulated vehicle damage and tire wear in racing games. Gran Turismo 2 was released in 1999, and it built on the success of the first game. After that, Polyphony Digital released several titles in the Gran Turismo series, but the one that really changed the dynamics of the series was Gran Turismo Sport, which was released in 2017. Featuring jaw-dropping graphics, lifelike car models, and realistic physics, Gran Turismo Sport set a new standard for racing games. On the 25th anniversary of Gran Turismo, Polyphony Digital President Kazunori Yamauchi shared a message revealing that over the past 25 years, Gran Turismo sold over 90 million copies of the game. Kazunori Yamauchi added that he started developing games at the age of 10 and Gran Turismo was one of the 100 projects he came up with when he officially started working in the game development industry. He continued on to say that he is grateful for all the support the fans have given him and the game over the years and that he looks forward to continuing to make great games for them in the future. Kazunori Yamauchi tells the touching story of how the project started with just a group of 5 members, and how the team has grown to over 200 members today. The studio is continuously trying to fix issues and add more content to Gran Turismo 7 to keep its fanbase happy. For those who are not aware, a Gran Turismo movie is also in the works, being directed by Neil Blomkamp, who is known for bringing unique films like District 9 and Chappie to life. The script for the movie is written by Jason Hall, who is best known for writing 2014's American Sniper, and is set to release on August 11, 2023. The impressive Resident Evil Code Veronica fan remake project has been shut down, reportedly due to demands from Capcom. Resident Evil Code Veronica has an odd place in the franchise's history. It was originally meant to be Resident Evil 3, following up where Resident Evil 2 left off, but due to contractual obligations. The 3 moniker was given to Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, and Code Veronica was released without being a numbered entry in the long-running survival horror franchise. Even though Resident Evil Code Veronica is not a numbered entry, it's still one of the absolute most important games in the series, story-wise. Resident Evil Code Veronica has important revelations about the Umbrella Corporation, and it also brings back Albert Wesker, the antagonist from the original Resident Evil game. The events of Resident Evil Code Veronica would help set a course for the franchise's future. While Resident Evil 4 took a detour, the story started in Code Veronica was eventually wrapped up in Resident Evil 5. For one reason or another, Resident Evil Code Veronica has largely been ignored by Capcom. While it received an HD remaster, it hasn't quite got the same treatment as other games in the series, with no version of it natively available on newer hardware. The last time it was officially re-released was in 2011 on PS3 and Xbox 360. With Capcom showing no interest in Code Veronica, a group of fans got together to create their own Resident Evil Code Veronica remake in the style of the recent RE remakes. Development progressed enough that the developers released a demo for the Code Veronica remake and announced their plans to release it this year. However, Capcom has reportedly demanded that development on the fan remake be shut down, threatening legal action since the fan developers were using copyrighted material owned by the company. While this is a disappointing development for those who were hoping to play the Code Veronica fan remake, some have taken this as a sign that an official remake could be in the works. Fans shouldn't hold their breath for an official Code Veronica remake at this time, though. Many video game companies take down fan projects like these to protect their intellectual property rights, and doing so doesn't necessarily have anything to do with any future plans. While some RE fans still hold out hope that Code Veronica will receive a remake. Resident Evil 4's producer Yoshiaki Hirabayashi claimed in an interview with Noisy Pixel that there are currently no plans for one, but if the opportunity comes, maybe. Hirabayashi's comment does leave room for speculation, however, as Capcom might be looking towards more niche titles in the series to remake after the release of Resident Evil 4. Especially as it seems unlikely that the company would remake titles as recent as Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6. Games like Code Veronica and Resident Evil Outbreak might be up for remake consideration at Capcom after Resident Evil 4 releases. A recent interview reveals that the next game by Naughty Dog will be structured more like a TV show. Naughty Dog has been one of Sony's most prolific studios throughout PlayStation's long history, as the studio has released several great games across the console generations. More recently, Naughty Dog has become famous for its work on the Uncharted and The Last of Us franchises, with the studio releasing The Last of Us Part 1 remake late in 2022. Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann gave an interview with The New Yorker about the upcoming TV show based on The Last of Us. While a majority of the article deals with the TV show, fans will notice some new information about an in-development Naughty Dog game right at the end. Druckmann confirms that his next project is a game that is structured more like a TV show than anything else made by the studio. He also mentions that he isn't working on the script alone or with a single partner, as Naughty Dog is assembling a writer's room for this next game. Druckmann clarified that he simply meant that the games they make from now on would be in an even more collaborative manner, and teased that he could not wait to show off future projects as soon as possible. Fans are particularly focusing on Neil's choice of words, as he mentioned that there were multiple projects that the studio is currently working on. Certainly, one of those announcements is the upcoming The Last of Us Factions 2 multiplayer, which was originally planned to release alongside The Last of Us Part 2 but became its own standalone project because of how ambitious it is. As of now, users can only guess the implications behind it being designed like a TV show. Although, it probably will not be an episodic release like the original Life is Strange or titles made by Telltale Games. Even though the PS5 is over 2 years old, Naughty Dog is yet to release a new game for Sony's latest console. As The Last of Us Part 1 is a remake of an older title, the first new release will probably be the multiplayer project set in the same universe. Rumors have been circulating about the next game in production at Naughty Dog for a while, with recent leaks pointing to it being a new fantasy IP. One leak also mentioned that a third game in the Last of Us series is being worked on, which may be what Druckmann was referring to in the interview. The first screenshot of CCG's Ghost of a Tale 2 has finally been shared online. The sequel to 2018's whimsical stealth RPG has been long asked for by fans, but the indie developer has never solidly confirmed that a follow-up was in development. Up till now, there has only been a vague image or two that served more as a teaser than confirmation. Ghost of a Tale recounts the story of Tilo, a little mouse minstrel who is on a quest to find his wife Mara after the pair are imprisoned and separated. What initially seems like a cutesy game quickly reveals itself to have an engaging story, fairly deep character development, and an appealing graphic style. The game originally released on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and Ghost of a Tale was subsequently ported to Nintendo Switch and Amazon Luna. Developer CCG recently shared a screenshot of Ghost of a Tale 2 on Twitter, captioned simply, "Have you seen this mouse?" The image shows a location that resembles the jail area of the first game, with mushrooms, an apple, and candles, familiar items to those who played Ghost of a Tale, as well as a wanted poster of Tilo hanging on the wall. In the comments, fans have already expressed excitement at the image and its accompanying hashtag, Ghost of a Tale 2, and some have noticed that the indie developer has moved from Unity to Unreal Engine 5. Unfortunately, this is just a first screenshot, and CCG responded to a Twitter comment with the clarification that they have only been working with Unreal Engine for 8 months and had to relearn everything. Add to that the fact that the development team is incredibly small, and release date expectations for Ghost of a Tale 2 should probably be kept subdued. The first game was essentially developed by a one-man team, Lionel Seith Gowlat, a veteran of the film industry who formerly worked as an animator at DreamWorks and Universal Pictures. After gaining valuable experience on titles like Illumination Entertainment's Despicable Me, Flushed Away, and The Lorax, Gowlat made the move to game development, acquiring the financing for Ghost of a Tale via an Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign. Let's hope the development goes smooth and we get to experience Part 2. PlayStation 3 emulation has reached an important new milestone, and it is now possible to boot every PS3 game to successful image output. The infamously complex cell processor used by Sony's 7th-generation console was a significant hurdle for emulator developers, but the recent couple of years have led to substantial improvements in this field. Though the PS3 is now considered a legacy platform, Sony's console is still fairly relevant to many gamers due to the quality of the games it ended up getting over the course of its lifetime. Exclusives included titles such as God of War, Metal Gear Solid 4, the original Demon's Souls, and Gran Turismo 6, and getting to emulate them on PC has been an important consideration for many gamers. PlayStation 3 emulation is mostly relegated to RPCS3 due to the complexity of the original console, and there has been important progress as of late. In fact, the official RPCS3 Twitter account recently announced that the application can now officially boot every PS3 title ever released. This includes the best PlayStation Plus premium PS3 games, too, like Infamous and Ratchet & Clank: A Crack in Time. Note, however, that this doesn't necessarily mean that all PS3 games are actually playable on PC at this time. Notably, just under 68% of the grand total of all PS3 games can be completed with playable performance and without game-breaking bugs, with the remaining 32% or so booting but still unplayable. Naturally, RPCS3 is bound to continue improving as time goes on, and it now seems practically inevitable that all the PS3 exclusives will eventually run well on PC. Since Sony has many exclusive games, it's not particularly strange to see that a working PS3 emulator would be as popular as it currently is. Sony hasn't chimed in on the matter, of course. While other companies, like Nintendo, take a hardline stance against anything related to emulation, Sony hasn't been quite as draconic in this regard. Just recently, Valve deleted a Steam Deck video featuring Switch emulation to avoid any potential problems that might arise from Nintendo's lawyers targeting the new device. It may be worth pointing out that it's possible Sony itself is working on PS3 game emulation for PlayStation 5. Earlier in 2022, leaker Jeff Grubb stated that it's entirely possible Sony might be looking into ways to run old classics on its latest console offering. Nothing's come of this rumor just yet, but since these things take time, it's anyone's guess whether something of the type might happen in the future. There is still no way to play God of War Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta on the PS5, so emulation just really helps in this regard. Due to recent controversy regarding in-game purchases in Fortnite, Epic Games has received a $500 million penalty. And the U.S. Federal Trade Commission has agreed to give out refunds to individuals that meet the proper requirements. The FTC will use $225 million of the $500 million to compensate for the loss that certain people have endured regarding this issue in Fortnite. Those who aren't sure if they qualify to receive settlement money should continue reading and inform themselves as much as possible to proceed with this. This article will explain exactly who is eligible for a refund. According to the official U.S. Federal Trade Commission website, only those that meet very particular requirements will be eligible for a refund. The requirements are: parents whose children made an unauthorized credit card purchase in the Epic Games Store between January 2017 and November 2018. Fortnite players who were charged in-game currency, V-Bucks, for unwanted in-game items, such as cosmetics, llamas, or battle passes, between January 2017 and September 2022. Fortnite players whose accounts were locked between January 2017 and September 2022 after disputing unauthorized charges with their credit card companies. Unfortunately, no further information has been posted concerning how to sign up to get a refund. The only advice that the FTC has given those worried about this situation is to keep an eye on their official website and activate email notifications to get notified as soon as more details are made available. The refund program will surely help those that have had this on their mind for a while now. Players will hopefully be able to get their accounts back, and parents will also receive their money back. Epic Games has taken this action very seriously, and in response to this controversy, they have also added a new account system, cabined accounts, made especially for kids. It's been implemented in Fortnite and other games. Parents who are worried about their children's spending habits and online safety should choose this tailored experience instead. The Rayman franchise has been quiet for a while. It was late 2013 when Ubisoft released Rayman Legends as the fifth mainline Rayman title, and ever since then, there's been nothing but re-releases and mobile spin-offs. If not for Rayman Legends being such a fantastic game and coming to every console, people might not even be aware of this classic mascot platformer series. Among many spin-offs, the other main Rayman games are made up of the 2D original, the highly acclaimed 3D sequel Rayman 2 The Great Escape, its follow-up Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc. And then a jump from 2003 to 2011 for another 2D platformer titled Rayman Origins on the UbiArt framework engine. That conspicuous release gap was caused by the Rayman series getting absorbed into the Raving Rabbids games. Infamously, the game intended to be Rayman 4 was repurposed into a Wii minigame collection called Rayman Raving Rabbids in 2006. Thus began the Rabbids franchise, which is still hounding desperate Rayman fans to this day. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope will finally throw the community a bone via Rayman DLC, but a true Rayman 4 is nowhere in sight. At least, not until December 24th, when Rayman fans experienced what can only be called a holiday miracle. Twitter user @RibShark suddenly alerted the Rayman community to a massive Rayman 4 leak early on December 24, 2022. Exactly where this leak is located was left to viewers to find, and the original source of the leak remains anonymous. Still, copious amounts of evidence were quickly posted to prove both the veracity and severity of this Rayman 4 leak. Rather than anything easy to fabricate like old marketing materials or design documents, this leak consisted of Rayman 4's source code and editor, as well as many of its assets. Video game source code is almost never publicly available, so getting it from an unreleased game is an almost unprecedented occurrence. The following reports, screenshots, and even videos from fans whipped the community into a frenzy. Of particular interest were the various test environments, which contained tons of disparate features and assets that would have gone into the game. Various mounts were found for the limbless hero Rayman, including the giant spider he was seen riding in an old promotional image, and some sort of giant centipede that could crawl on walls. Among other mounts like a hippogriff and a triceratops was a vehicle styled after the Rabbids, who were also present. Several Rabbid body types have been found so far, and several costumes are present including a punk rock costume seen in an old screenshot and the nude Rayman skin that was officially introduced in Rayman Legends. Not only were there visual elements like silent cutscenes and a model for Rayman's planned girlfriend, but the gameplay was extracted too. Segments where Rayman was playable allowed users to try out his various skills, some of which had, again, been advertised before Raving Rabbids came out. In a test level that saw Rayman entering a giant rabbit ship to destroy it from within, players could float on air vents and pull levers by grabbing them and moving away. Some combat was also present, including cinematic combo finishers and laser guns for the player to steal. Rayman's health was represented by a number that appeared above his head, and his ground pound would also deplete a mana total. All of a sudden, much of what has been made for the official Rayman 4 is now available online, and there's no telling what could happen next. Gawking at a surge of news on the scale of the mid-COVID Nintendo leaks is to be expected, but it gets better with context. The Rayman series had been going strong up until Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc was released by publisher and developer Ubisoft in 2003. By the end of its North American launch month, Rayman 3 had sold over 1 million copies. With good reviews and sales, what happened to Rayman next was baffling. Rayman Raving Rabbids was announced in April 2006, initially being pitched as the latest Rayman platformer, and then released in November 2006 as a barebones minigame collection. Fans were flabbergasted, but the truth behind the changes lay behind the scenes. Unbeknownst to most, there have actually been two cancelled Rayman 4 projects by two separate developers. The first was by Phoenix Studio, a now-defunct developer best known for its work on Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly-Tumbly adventure. It would have had the honor of being the first non-Ubisoft studio to make a mainline Rayman game, but after an unknown amount of pre-production, development ceased after 4 months. This prototype actually has lots of leaked art and renders of its own, and some of its ideas were mixed into the Game Boy Advance Rayman Raving Rabbids title. At any rate, Rayman returned to Ubisoft Montpellier, once again under his original creator Michel Ancel. Rayman 4 was the working title for the game that became Rayman Raving Rabbids. Almost everything found in the recent leak corresponds to something in this title's candid marketing materials and teaser trailer, meaning the Phoenix Studio build is not involved. Supposedly, the earliest planning for Ubisoft Montpellier's Rayman 4 began in 2005, during the development of Peter Jackson's King Kong video game. Most of the ensuing development was spent coming up with lots of different gameplay ideas. Then, the development focus abruptly switched from PlayStation 2 to Wii when dev kits became available, prompting Ancel to leave the project. This rushed change to hit the Wii's November 2006 launch and lack of a coherent vision sealed Rayman 4's fate. With the few mini-games seen in early marketing brought to the forefront, the game now known as Rayman Raving Rabbids finally took shape. It remains to be seen if the proposed costume-relevant dance moves to control enemies are in the leaked Rayman 4 code, but everything else, including long-distance grabbing and monster riding, seems intact. This leak offers a surprisingly in-depth look at a game fans never got, but still desired over the frequent Rabbids releases that followed. With these tools, the community could follow the Duke Nukem Forever 2001 fandom by completing the project themselves. Whatever happens, this leak and the upcoming Mario plus Rabbids DLC have given Rayman the most attention he's had in years, and a little hope can't be bad for the limbless hero. The free PlayStation Plus games for January 2023 have been officially revealed to be Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Fallout 76, and Axiom Verge 2. Sony typically uses the last Wednesday of each month to reveal the next batch of free PlayStation Plus games, and this month is no exception to the rule. Just as Sony usually reveals the next free PS Plus games on the last Wednesday of each month, they typically become available on the first Tuesday of the following month. That will hold true when it comes to the free PS Plus games for January 2023. PlayStation Plus subscribers will be able to claim Star Wars Jedi, Fallen Order, Fallout 76, and Axiom Verge 2 for their digital libraries beginning Tuesday, January 3rd. The games will be available to claim until February 6th. It's worth pointing out that all three games have PS4 versions available, though PS5 gamers can grab the native PS5 versions of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Axiom Verge 2 if they so desire. Fallout 76 does not have a next-gen version, but PS5's backward compatibility with PS4 means it will still be playable on Sony's newer hardware. It was previously confirmed that WWE 2K22 will be added to the PS Plus Extra lineup on January 3rd. It's unclear why WWE 2K22 is being added separate from the other PS Plus Extra games. Subscribers may also be confused as to why only the PS4 version of WWE 2K22 is being added and not the PS5 version. While PS Plus subscribers wait for the new games coming in January, they still have some time to grab the free PS Plus games for December 2022. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.